What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.
The author of the sensational international bestseller and the most compelling non-fiction publication of all time is back in London for the first time in 25 years to celebrate Chariots of the Gods' 50th anniversary. Eric Von Däniken Legacy Night. In this 2-hour special, you are invited to share with Eric his most influential discoveries and revelations. Learn about his incredible life journey as an author and researcher. Meet the team behind the highly anticipated Chariots of the Gods 360-degree entertainment franchise. Eric Von Däniken Legacy Night, live streamed from the Princess Anne Theatre, BAFTA 195, Piccadilly, London, October 15th, 2016.
The Moore Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines. Available for download on all major digital platforms. The comments and views expressed on The Moore Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The Moore Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online. You're now watching the UK's only alternative late night talk show. And I'm your host, Kevin Moore. For the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. On today's show, I'm joined with Deep Trance Channel, Réné, and his wife Maggie Gaudette. Now, Réné has been on a personal journey of self-awareness, enlightenment and growth since 1987. Following a near-death experience as a result of a snowmobile accident, Réné realised his life was about to take on a major turn when childhood memories began to resurface and he reawakened his deep trance psychic abilities. Now, since 1993, Réné has been actively channeling the Wonders, who have made clear on several occasions that they choose to speak only through Réné. Thus, Réné continues to be the exclusive channel to the information being presented by the Wonders. Réné and Maggie Gaudette, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having us.
Yes.
It's great to have you on. Now, I'm just going to say this at the beginning to the audience. We are struggling a little bit with our internet connection here on your side. So we're going to do. We've done our best, right? Well, you've done your best right now, and I really appreciate that. Just to sort the audio out, but there may be a slight delay between us. So just to sort of take note there that if we're struggling to hear each other. I am very glad to have you both on. You know, just recently there's been a lot of channelers coming on my show from all walks of life, all parts of the world. And it's great to have a couple on from Canada as well. What part of Canada are you based in?
We're based in Ontario, just north of Toronto.
Ontario, right? Yeah, I mean, I've never been to Canada. I mean, obviously there must be big differences between America and Canada, you know. But it's you know, a place I do want to visit sometime, most definitely. And it's the place where your journey started as well, Réné. Now, before we get into your journey, I just want to talk about the reason why Maggie is here as well. Now Maggie, we were just talking off air as well. Now, you met Réné, I believe, at 47 after sort of 2 marriages and a couple of failed relationships. You knew what you wanted in that after that time, and you were sort of connected together, not just in this life, but obviously in a past life connection as well. Is that right?
Many past lives. And one came to mind that the Wonders brought up, and Renee saw images of it, I saw images, and it was just fascinating to think that we were connected through time like that.
So when you connected with Réné to begin with, what was that connection like? Did you just know he was the one, or you know, was it pretty much after one phone conversation you knew that this was someone that you needed to meet?
Yes, I did. Yeah. After one conversation, we talked on the phone one night, and I met him the next day. And in meeting them the next day, I just knew that that connection was there. We found out about our past life a couple of days after that, and it was just amazing. Our connection was there. I saw him channel once before I actually met him and talked to him, and I saw some of the images coming up from his face and past lives, and I just knew that we were meant to be together.
And this is where I can drop in for a second now, if you don't mind. Yeah. Because when she walked in, I was doing a channeling in a coffee shop, okay? Yeah. And she walked in late. Of course, needless to say, she's always that way. So she walks in late, last minute, and the first thing I did, I went, whoa, who is this woman? And of course, didn't pay much attention to it. And about a month later is when we connected over the telephone. And that's when everything started.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there was a past life connection between you both, and we could just touch on that story maybe, but it has been, you've spoken about it before. I mean, there's past interviews on your website where you talk about I believe you talk about your past life connection together and some of those memories that came up. But I also believe, Maggie, that, you know, there were times when you guys were both in the same area or right next to each other, and, you know, you just didn't know that you two were destined to be in this moment right now, but you crossed paths many times. That's what I'm trying to say.
The Wonders told us that we crossed paths about 29 times. We could have met and been together that many times. So
afterwards we did a great, we started comparing notes. Yeah. You know, like my very first job that I was going to have after I came out of college, I was going to go work for a bank. And at the last minute, I decided not to do that one and go work for the government instead. And if I had gone to work with the bank, I would have gone to where she was actually training people, and we would have met at that point.
Yeah.
Another time was I was snowmobiling, and as it turned out, I was snowmobiling right in front of her house.
Big farmhouse, lots of snow, and here's these snowmobilers going by. Little did I know it was Renee.
Wow! Yeah. Wow! Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? Absolutely. And okay, so you're an artist, but it's, you paint, and that's something you do just part time right now, is it?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I work with I work with Renee and the Wonders full time now, and we do everything that we do: the sessions and the workshops and retreats, and private sessions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think, you know, it's funny, but I watched a past interview of yourself just earlier on, but before I'd watched it, I just knew that there was no way Réné could do the work that he does without you. you're pretty much as rock as far as I see it. You know, and I'm not trying to put words in René's mouth here, but I just, you know, that's the way that I felt that it came across. Because, I mean, you're very much a silent partner in this in some respects, as you will be in about 10 minutes, unfortunately. But I just wanted to bring into the audiences, you know, why you're there, and because normally it would just be the channeler coming on, but there's a reason why you're going to be sat there. That's my main point.
Absolutely, because I've always said it, you know, it's by Maggie affords me the confidence to let go completely, always knowing that my body's being well taken care of. And I've, like I said many times, without her, I've had other people do what she does, but it's never been where I could let go to the extent that I do now. With Maggie, it just makes it so much, there's that awareness, that confidence, that security that I have that says, yeah, you go ahead and I'll take care of you.
Okay, now with you, okay, well, Maggie, apologies for sort of, you know, going straight to René here and the sort of the thrust being on René, but I will try to come back to you and not ignore you in this interview as well, because you have taken the time to be here and be present. René, with your background, so you were raised Catholic as a child, wasn't you?
Unfortunately. Yes.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And obviously, when did you start to move away from that, in a sense, when it didn't serve you anymore? Was this prior to the channeling that it sort of, you know, you didn't practice it as much anymore?
Absolutely. By the time I was 13 or 14 years old, I was asking questions of the priests they couldn't answer. And at that point, it was, okay, I am so far ahead of you in many, many ways that you know, I just decided that I didn't want to follow that whole religious thing. However, having said that, I lived in a family that was very, very dogmatic and autocratic, and, you know, you had to go to church every Sunday no matter what. So you go to church, you pay your dues until you leave home, and then you do what you want.
Absolutely. Okay. And where do we go from here? Well, you know what? It was 1989 when you had your well, you could almost say that you did die. It wasn't quite a near-death experience, but your snow accident as well, which changed your life. Now, just prior to that accident, what were you into? Any sort of alternative books? Did Jane Roberts ever come your way? Did Edgar Cayce or any other sort of spiritual texts come your way?
Actually, about maybe a year before that, I had separated from my wife, and I was going through a bit of a depression. And a friend of mine said to me, he says, "You got to go see the psychic," you know, and ask some questions. And I said, "Psychic? Who wants to go see a psychic?" I'd never been to a psychic in my life. So as it turned out, I prepared a list of all the questions I was supposed to ask. There was about a good 500 questions. And I went into my first session, and as soon as the guy went into his trance, the very first thing I did was I said to myself, okay, that's it. I know what I have to do. I don't need this session. Thank you very much. And the lady who was helping, she says, well, you might as well ask your questions. You've paid for the hour. Yeah. So I went through all the questions that I had, and I picked them all up and said, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Okay, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. And at the end of the session, I thought, this is what I have to do. It took about a year before it happened, because over that period of a year, I got in touch with Edgar Cayce and Jane Roberts and Sanaya Roman and a number of other channelers. So I spent a long time exploring that kind of stuff, Lazarus, you know, and did a lot of studying, did a lot of reading and everything else. And then in '89, when I had my accident, I did die, by the way. I died twice. And my near-death experience is not like everybody else's. I don't remember them, but I do remember coming to and realizing that I didn't have any more time to waste. I was living on borrowed time now. And I had no more time to waste. I had to start doing what I was meant to do in this life. And it took about a year little less than a year after that, I was in a meditation class, and didn't realize I was in the middle of a meditation. And I thought I was having a really great time. Came out, and there was 20 people sitting on the floor in front of me with their mouths wide open, and I did channeling. And that's how it all started.
Okay. Now, people like Edgar Cayce were not a god or anything like that. They were just normal people with an extraordinary gift. So was Jane Roberts, and they, Edgar was a smoker. Jane Roberts was as well. On Jane Roberts' deathbed, she told Robert, to make sure people did not, worship her or see her as a god, in a sense that she had this ability that we all have, in a sense, to be able to connect to these higher realms as well, and that's the same with yourself. I think. I mean, like you say, you've been through a few. You've lived life in a sense, and you also had a nervous breakdown as well, which was a cleansing period for yourself. Would you say?
Totally. I think all of the experiences that I've had in life have kind of set me up to be able to help people on my own. And then, of course, there's the channeling. And that happened. The more, as I said, when I encountered, his name was Michael Blake Reed, and he channeled the Evergreens at the time. And I went, and when I encountered him, I went, okay, this is what this is what I'm supposed to do. But it took a few years before I actually was comfortable enough to let go. And when I first started channeling, I started channeling a few people, strangers that were dead, that kind of stuff. And I thought, it's just not for me. There's something that's just, I found it icky. I didn't like it. The energy was not really good. So I decided at that point, I said to myself, okay, if I'm going to do this, I want to channel the highest source that could ever come through the world at any point in time. And it was about, maybe about 3 or 4 days later, and then the wonders came through. And at that point, it was, okay, we didn't have a name for them. But my ex-wife at the time, ex-wife now, I should say, she was the one that came up. I came out of a session and I said, we've got a name, and she says, yes, the Wonders. And that's how it came. They got to be named. And I thought that was pretty good, because I wondered who they were, and they were rather wonderful at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this whole idea of a name as well. It's just, do you think that the Wonders have that name just for us for those who resonate with your work, for those to need that name for it? Really, that's not their name. It's just a name that's been comfortable to have come through, and it's one that you're comfortable with as well. But it's not really who they are.
No, it's not. It's a name we've given them. Let's face it. It's like we could have given them John Henry or George, for that matter. But by giving them a name such as this, it became something that people could resonate with, and something that identified them. And of course, they gave us a description of themselves, and they said, this is not a description of who we are, it's a description that you will understand. And that's why that's what it is.
Okay. Now, when you went through the nervous breakdown, obviously, there was a lot of healing that took place. You had to look at the negative side of yourself, the hurt, the pain, the rage. Really go through a process that you now teach others as well. Would you say?
Yeah, the nervous breakdown made me realize that I could not control anything. And up to that point in my life, I was still trying to control things. I was still trying to control life in that sense. But once I got through all of that nervous breakdown, I came to the realization that I couldn't control anything. All I could do was heal. And at that point, I started a process. I guess it took about another 2 to maybe 4 years, almost 5 years, before I went through a complete healing process. And around the end of that 5 years, at that point, of course, I had a number of relationships, and they had all failed. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm not doing this again. I'm not doing this again. I'm not going through this in my life. And so what I did is I went on a 4-month process of 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, examining every psychology I had, everything that was causing me to create distress in my life, to create these situations where I would shoot myself in the foot, hurt myself. And it took 4 solid months of going through the pain, as you call it, the pain, the sorrow, the suffering, the anger, the rage, the frustration. And then once I came out of that, that's when I knew that at that point, all I wanted in my life was I wanted someone who would be with me, who would support me in everything that I did, love me for everything that I was, and who would stay with me for the rest of my life. And the very next day, Maggie came into my life.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And Maggie, as well, do you think that every session that happens is a session for you as well to learn from?
Oh, absolutely. I get things by osmosis. I don't listen to the sessions, by the way. In fact, about the only time I ever listened to a session, I listened to the defining statements. I was in Mexico on a vacation, and the two of us, and I thought, oh, I'll just listen to the defining statements just because it's fun. Why not? Yeah. I started listening to it, and I went, whoa, where is this stuff? Where did it come from? And I realized it came from, obviously, through me. And I thought, damn, if I'd known this years ago, it would have been a whole lot better, you know?
Absolutely. And Maggie, with yourself as well, do you think the sessions are a session for you? Do you think that this is your time right now to be getting this information from the Wonders to expand your soul as well?
Oh, totally. Yes. Every session, every word that the Wonders speak is something that I gain from. I grow. Absolutely.
I love what I love.
Yeah.
What I love is I love going under and not knowing what's going to happen when I come back out. Sometimes people are laughing. Sometimes people are crying.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are really upset. Sometimes people are very angry.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are really scared.
Yeah.
And with all of that, I watch people heal. I watch the healing taking place. And that's what's so wonderful.
It's amazing.
Yes, that's absolutely. That's the most important part of this is the healing that takes place, because really that's these are teaching. This is teaching information, and it's there to heal those who are attracted to you, to the Wonders, and you're probably attracting people on the same level, I would say.
I think
what do you think?
I think what we attract mostly is people who have tried a number of other avenues in life. They've tried the self-help books. They've tried other channelers sometimes. They've tried other sources, like therapists, whatever. But what they're always looking for something. There's still something missing. And when they come across the Wonders, they realize they've come home. Those are the people we attract. And what I find is that they come and they stay. Mm-hmm. They don't. It's like they're finally home. And yes, with the Wonders, their whole purpose of being here is to elevate the consciousness of humanity, to empower humanity. They've said it. They're here to help humanity empower itself.
Yes.
And they do it one person at a time. If each person empowers themselves, eventually humanity will empower itself.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. Okay, loads of questions here, and it's going to get a little bit tight, so in some respects, so bear with me. There's nothing rude meant by this. It really is a challenging time right now, that in the sense of what's happening in the world, and I think we all play a pivotal part in this, and you are as well. But here goes some questions as well. Okay, so now before we start, 29th level is it? Sorry, 29th dimension. Is that what they've said that they potentially come from?
They've basically given humanity a concept that there are 32 dimensions. Now, the idea that they came from the 29th was my unwillingness to allow them to describe themselves as anything more. That was my filter at the time. And I said, there's just no way. You're not going to be calling yourself God. You're not going to be out there, pretending that you're God. That's it. Forget it. That's it. And so they started speaking as a 29th dimension of reality. If you go through the years, because we've been channeling the Wonders now for almost 20 years, and as I've gone through the years, and as they've gone through the years, I've let go more and more of my own filters. And so they've alluded to it, and in fact, quite simply said that they are the all that is. And so it's up to, it's up to us to decide what that means.
Yep. Would you be surprised when you cross over that there is unlimited dimensions to go to?
No. The idea of 32 dimensions is a concept for mankind. It has nothing to do with reality.
Would you be surprised that there are greater beings than the Wanders, and the Wanders are channeling beings even higher than themselves, just like Seth channels Seth too?
That would not surprise me. It's not that it would surprise me. I would be actually quite, how would I put it? Unbelievable, I guess you could say. Because I do connect with them on so many ways, on so many levels. And I recognize, even when I do connect with them, especially when I'm under, I recognize that their depth and breadth is way beyond anything that exists above them. That they've given me the concept of there might be an existence above them at one point, but it's been so foreign to that whole conversation that I can't see it happening. Like I said, to me, it was, this is the highest source. But then, hey, everybody has a perspective. So what do I know?
I would say there's if there's infinitive levels in a sense, as in there's just there, it's beyond our conceptualization, just the growth that we can go to in all these particular dimensions and all this uncomprehensible in this sense really to us. But yes, I would say my own truth is that there is other much higher dimensions, and this dimension that you're bringing through is of great value in this time right now. Now, when you make a statement that this is the world's most profound source of personal development information, or as you say, Réné is the most extraordinary gifted channeler of the 21st century, these are bold statements in the sense I don't know what other channelers would say to that, because we've got channelers, and I've been interviewing all over the world right now, and you'll know some like the Lee Carroll that channels crime, Bashir, Daryl, what is it called? Esther and Jerry. Well, Jerry's now passed on, but Esther Hicks. Yeah. There's so many. That's just to name a tiny percentage. I had someone on that channel's The Mothers the other day, and I don't know. I mean, to say that it's the most profound or the highest. Do you think the channel's saying that, or do you think that's coming from you personally?
It's people who have encountered the wonders and who actually express it that way. But first, let me clarify one thing, okay? The concept of 32 dimensions is a concept that the wonders gave us as humanity for us to understand something. But who they are, that has never been defined by them. They've basically allowed us to say, this is what you can see us as, but we are way more than that, okay? So the whole idea that I defined them as the 29th. That was their given. They gave that. The idea that, there's 32 dimensions, they gave us that. The idea that kept them at the 29th for a while, that was my filter. But it certainly wasn't me saying this is what it had to be. But from there, you take that and then you look at what is the most profound source. We've had all kinds of people from all over the world come to the wonders, who have been to the other channelers, who have listened to the other material, who have explored for years the other stuff, and they come and listen to the wonders, and they are blown away by what there is. And they're basically the ones. They are the ones that have said this is the most profound source. As to whether or not I'm the best channeler in the world, other people have said that. Let's face it, I don't know. I've explored a lot of channelers and many channelers, but back in 1998, 99 is when I started channeling with just taking one breath. Since then, a lot of other channelers have started doing it, but at that point, it was just something that I did. The wonders told me that letting go was the easiest thing. The justification was what you did before and after letting go. And with that, I just let it go. So, am I the best? Who knows? It's for other people to decide. Am I the most, is the wonders the most profound source? I don't make that judgment. It's for people to decide. it's something that we try to express to people so that they can then look at it and say, is this something I want to explore? Is this material that I want to discover?
Yeah, I think that it's a shame that other channels don't mix together and work together a bit more. I guess they would think they're on their own path, so and someone else that's channeling cryon or something else, they're on their own path. But it is a shame that we don't come together as channelers and have conferences together where we're really together. We're stronger than apart.
I agree.
Together, we're stronger than apart.
I agree, but what you'll find is that ultimately, every channel's material, no matter where the source is, it all comes from one single source, or one source, if you want, one infinite source, as you called it. So it doesn't matter whether it's Cryon or Abraham or Lazar
or
Edgar Casey, Jane Roberts, Seth. It doesn't matter where it comes from. It's information that literally is out there to help humanity. Now, the one thing that I have noticed from my own personal experience with different channelers is that when the wonders come through right from the get-go, the one thing they said was, we're here to help you empower humanity. We're here to empower humanity. So what they do and what they say is basically information that allows you to choose, to understand that you can choose, that you have the power to choose. And because you have the power to choose, it is not up to anyone else to tell you that you can't. So the whole process, it's not about, something to placate your ego, something to placate your mind, something to make you feel good. It's like, here it is, here's the material, here's how the information that will help you to realize that you can choose any path you want.
Well, the thing is, right, I channel, and I'm just in the process of writing the book. The book's called Beyond the Current Understanding of Mankind, Book 1, and there is chapters in there which no one's ever talked about before. And I did ask myself, I was more enthralled by bringing information from higher levels than just bringing information about, day-to-day stuff, manifestation, why am I here, what is, the normal kind of stuff that comes through, which is very helpful to people. But for me, I wanted to something a bit different as well. And I was channeling what was called the One, but it's changed for me, because what's really happening now is the difference I'm doing with channeling is it's coming from me. I no longer take on a personality or persona. I realize now that when the One were coming through, actually the One were me all the time. They were a past life aspect of me. It wasn't separate from me. And I got also to realize as well that actually we all have this innate power to go within and go to our higher self, our oversoul, and bring through this information. It also said to me, it also made me see as well that those who call channeling by a different name, which is fine, which is it's perfect to do that. But I think it's just my truth that really maybe we don't feel we're lovable enough to say that information's coming from us, that we are the wonders, we are the One, we are the Crowns, we are the Bashirs, we are the Esther and Jerry Hicks. It was all us all the time. But we separate ourselves in a sense because, one, it's less responsibility in a way. Two, we're not that great with ourselves sometimes. And three, people still prefer it that way in the masses, so maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. But for me, I'm trying to bring a different paradigm to it, to say, it was you all the way along, and actually, you know what? Yes, it's separate, but it's not, which is difficult to understand, but you all have that power as well.
No, I understand and appreciate what you're saying, and for you, that's exactly how it works. But for me, please understand one thing for myself. I have no problems accepting my own responsibility, loving myself, and I certainly have no problem saying this is me. I am very psychic on my own, and I have, I can certainly do that, and I have helped people in my own way, because I know that part of myself that's me, and I have no problems acknowledging it. And then many, many times when the wonders are channeling, they'll say, this one's coming through, we need to set him aside. And, and I know, I can hear myself, when I'm there. I know I'm present. I don't know my ego is there, and I understand that part of myself. As to whether or not it's my higher self, I don't believe it. I think I know my higher self. I've encountered my higher self. I've met my higher self. And I know that my higher self is not the wonders themselves. It's the...
No, but what I'm saying to you is that it could be separate, but there's still some sort of, you're still connected at some point. You're part of their soul group at least.
Absolutely. You know, we all come from, ultimately, you call it that source, the wonders. I believe personally, and whether you call them the wonders or not, or whether you call them the all that is, whether you call it the universe, ultimately, I believe that all these sources ultimately connect to that through a variety of different filters and layers. Filters are sometimes present, but the thing that makes me a little more unique than a lot of other people is that I have the ability to set aside 99.9% of my filters. I do have one filter that I hang on to, and that's the filter that doesn't allow them to speak in different languages. So that is a filter that I put on, and I hold on to it, and then maybe one day I'll get past it, and maybe I won't before I die.
I'm just going to say apologies for the bad signal right now, everyone. We're just losing the signal a little bit as well here right now, so it's pretty bad. But we're going to keep going on because I think it's important just to do that. Okay, no, I appreciate what you're saying there. You know, for me, my process in the sense of being a conscious channel, remembering what I'm saying, it coming from my higher self, even though the one is over there, but they're allowing me for it to come through me so I can teach other people that. For me, being a conscious channel, it's very difficult. So I completely understand what you're saying, that when you have the least amount of filters for yourself, when you're gone, like you're in the driver's seat behind and they're in the front driving, yeah, you feel that's a much clearer filter. But the only thing I say you're missing out on is probably the teachings for yourself. Now, that's one thing that I've enjoyed, is that I've been able to feel and resonate and experience the teachings for myself because I've been present. But that's just my way of doing it. That's the only difference I would say between me and you. Being present, you get to feel and be a part of the teachings. Being in the back seat, you do lose that, obviously.
Okay, but understand one thing. I'm not even in the back seat. I'm not even in the car. Okay? It's the simple. That's the analogy. I'm not even in the car.
Yeah.
Having said that,
do you think you're losing part of the teaching then?
No, because what happens, like I was saying, is having said that, I still, not being in the car, there's still the wonders are with me all the time. So no, I don't lose anything. But in fact, they can be rather annoying. Because they are with me all the time. And annoying in the sense that there's that awareness is always present. So if I have any questions, any doubts, I just ask Maggie, what did they say? And Maggie says something, and you know, it goes, all right, okay, and that connects to some part of me. And so there's always an awareness on a very deep level, but it's not conscious. It's not something that I worry about.
No, I do understand what you're saying. It's just, is it interesting for you to hear how opposite it is for me? And I'm still writing a book, and there's so much trust that goes into doing this, because there's days when I'm writing these chapters, I'm thinking, shit, this is all coming from me, is it? And I have to trust myself to say, well, even if it is, it's coming from love in a sense. And if it isn't, and it is still from the one, and they've allowed me to do this conscious channeling, well, then that's cool as well, because that's what I wanted. I didn't want to become someone else.
And I admire you for it, and wonderful. We've for me, for what I do with the wonders, what I love.
Well, you don't become something. You don't become a different personality. You're still you. I see that in the videos. We're playing them right now on the screen.
Yeah, basically, let me put it. The voice changes a little bit, and it's become more. I've become more them than anything else. It's just like I said. You eventually you get close to a good friend, and eventually you start taking on the same characteristics. The wonders are basic. They're guiding me. They've moved me. I've grown immensely as a result of that. I'm exploring life a little differently than most other people, and I really do live life. I live life to the fullest. So for me, it's everything that I learned from the wonders, whether it be by listening to them or whether it be by osmosis or whether it be by asking Maggie or anybody else what's going on, it's all good. It doesn't matter where it comes from. At the end of the day, it's to me, it's all about empowering myself, and that's the key.
Yeah, yeah. And that, yeah, for yourself and those around you that will come in contact with the material as well. I mean, you know, I'm just challenging you on some of those bits, you know, because I can only go on what I've been told from the one, in the sense there is unlimited dimensions to go to, and even when you cross over, you're still trying to make your truth up. You're still trying to figure out your truth, as we are right now. Apparently, there's no defining truth. There's ultimate truth.
I don't think there's even an ultimate truth. I think what there is the truth that you're willing to accept. And then the moment you accept it, that basically you've created a judgment. And the moment you created that judgment, you've separated yourself from everything that is.
True, but then wouldn't you, if when you cross over, still be looking for a new truth? You may well be, because you may be, as we are now, we talk about the realm we go to. What about when we cross over to another dimension? We want, you know, there's another realm to go to above that, and above that, we're still reinventing ourselves anew, basically.
I agree, but again, every time we reinvent, it's based on another level of judgment. All we're doing is we're extending our judgments to be a little less rigid. We're loosening the judgment, so to speak, okay? And so by doing that, we're able to see things in a broader, deeper perspective than we would otherwise.
I was told one thing, that on the other levels, that there's one good thing about them: there's no war. They've moved past that, apparently. Oh. so yeah.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, when you look at consciousness, and I look at it as consciousness, when you look at consciousness that judges separates itself over and over and over again from the love that it is. Consciousness that doesn't judge reconnects to that love of the all that is. And I think if you look at it that way, you're starting to realize that it is that reconnection away from the judgment that you really are striving for. Whether we do it here as human beings, or whether we do it after we've passed on, or whether we do it from any other point of oversoul, or whatever you want to call it, whether it's channeling or whatever. At the end of the day, what we are looking to do is we are looking to remove the judgments that disempower us, that take away our self-power.
Yeah. Absolutely, and we're going to get into some of them. I think the beginning part of this conversation, and we're going to extend this interview, we're going to go into overtime over here, because I want to get into your teachings as well. I'm going to be fair with you to give you that, definitely. But I think it's just important to say, to look at this, because there's so much to this, in a sense. And I probably will end it on this, or try to end it on this, and you can say something back, please do. That really, you know, what you're being told right now by your collective group may only be a portion of the truth, because that's the only portion that you're able to handle, and the people that come to you are able to handle. It's much, much more expansive than that.
Agree. How's that?
That's good. That's good. We've agreed.
and I'll say another but attached to that, because I know the only but we have is the one we're sitting on. The caveat to all of that is that as we choose to expand our own awareness of judgment, as we choose to empower ourselves and let go of the need to judge, what we find is that the truth shifts, it alters, it creates a new perspective of truth. And each perspective is still a judgment, there's no doubt about it, but eventually we'll get past, hopefully, get past the incessant need to create the right truth, the right judgment. And eventually, hopefully, mankind, humanity as a whole, will realize that this incessant need to be right and wrong is what separates us from each other, and as a result of that, causes, as you called it, the wars, causes the problems in humanity, causes families to hurt each other, people to hate each other, people to create racism, and it's like it's this incessant need to be right. And once we get past that, and we can only get past it by the more we empower ourselves, the more we start loving ourselves, the more we realize that we don't need this incessant judgment, and then eventually, hopefully, humanity will grow.
Yeah, I agree with you, and yeah, I think the way my work's going with this maybe is that there's a much larger framework than any book's written about before, and we can, you know, to look at it that way is that then maybe that opens up space for even newer truths to come through, and maybe we're ready for that. For some of us, maybe we are. Okay, some wonderful teachings that you do as well. And just before we get into them as well, I'm just going to say there's a number of your books have been coming up on the screen as well. Now, am I right to say that you're self-published on a lot of these books?
All three of them, yes. Yes,
wow.
We have chosen to self-publish. We did the first one through a publisher before, but they wanted to change and alter things, so eventually we self-published.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, not an easy decision, but I suppose once you've done one, you know, the rest are pretty straightforward in a sense.
You know, publishing is easy. It really is. You know, the hard part is writing. Once you've got that, the rest of it is design, you know, editing, and then the publishing part is really easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Right, let's get into some of the teachings as well. Now, by the way, your signal has popped back on to full quality, so that's great as well. That's great. Where do we start with the teachings? Right. Well, there's a lot. And just to say this as well, we've been popping your website on the screen, and for those listening to this as an audio podcast as well, your website is
thewonders.com. www.thewonders.com.
And on there, you've got a whole catalogue of audio recordings, I believe, from all sorts of categories of subjects.
Yes. We've been channeling for almost 20 years. There's over 4,000 audio recordings right now on the store, each one categorized different ways. There's, you know, sometimes we do workshops, there's 20 sessions in a workshop. Sometimes we do retreats, and there's 36 sessions in a retreat. So each one of those is a recording. There's all kinds of available for everything from, you know, control versus command, which is a great recording. It's a good place to start for people who want to empower themselves, all the way up to, you know, the origins of humanity. We did that one back in 1998 or 99, and we just published it recently. So there's a lot of material that's there, everything from relationships to health to, you name it, it's there.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, it is. It's you know, and there's something I came across on your website as well. The 6 defining statements of existence by the Wonders. I really like this. Statement 1, and this is coming on the screen now, was existence is but an extension of yourself. That's so true. I am significant. Yeah. I am limitless. My choices reflect my limitlessness. Number 4, that which you are is that which I am, and that which I am is that which you are. That's powerful. Point 5, that which you choose, you do so out of joy. And 6, all that I am is love, and you are, and all that you are is love.
That's right. And the second statement, by the way, is not I am significant. It is I am sufficient. And sufficient is very different from significant.
Oopsie daisy, that's my fault. I do apologize. That's the dyslexia coming in there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But, you know, again, you know, you're saying, I mean, these things are said in a different way here to what has been said before, definitely. And, you know, it's great to see it in a different way.
Yes, and
it really is.
Realize that those 6 defining statements, they can express all of existence no matter which way you look at it. You know, they express this, the ant on the ground, right through to what we call God. God is the all that is. You know, it's the same defining statements no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just so important, though. Another part, you see, we talked about this before. I'm just going to go back to it before moving on with other stuff. It is this healing of the self, this looking into the dark sides of yourself, because we've all got, you know, deep down dark secrets, you know, thoughts that we are not proud of, whatever it may be. And some of these aspects, I'm guessing, probably come from past lives which have not been healed in the past and are still with us now in ways that we can't understand, or why should they be there, but they are. It's all about present moment, of course, but do you think that by healing ourselves in the sense of looking into what pisses us off, what makes us angry, you know, things that have not healed in the past, like forgiveness from people, wrongs that have never been put right, how do you summarize what makes what could improve us in the moment now in looking in this the sort of dark shadow side of ourselves?
Well, the thing is to realize that if you're looking into yourself and you're trying to relate it to past lives, as interesting a concept as that is, it is also a call it a big bear trap, okay? Because what it does is it makes people believe very strongly that they are not really truly responsible right now for what they're doing because it's all based on a past life. So they're not responsible for their choice right now. And as past lives are fascinating, they're interesting. They help us to understand the reasons behind the choices we make, but we can't fall into the trap of believing that somehow or other we can use that as an excuse for our present day choices. We have to realize, and this is what the wonders teach, is to realize that every day in the moment, you are in the moment choosing. If you are present in the moment, you choose based on what you have in the moment. That you don't choose it, that's your choice. That you do choose it, it's your choice. You can sit there and say it's because, and go into the because, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. What do you choose right now? Because if you really truly want to learn to get past that dark side of yourself, get past the parts that you're hurting yourself with, it's all about empowering yourself and loving. And you don't empower yourself by looking behind the past and trying to figure out what's going on. You empower yourself by choosing now in the moment.
Agreed, but my point is about the past life is that those parts of us that we don't talk about that are in us, that we think, well, where the hell does that come from? I never had that experience in my life, but there's that part of me that's feeling that way, and that I'm saying that that's probably because something from a past life has not been healed, and it's still within you now, as in some sort of imprint or karma or however it works, that it's in there. I'm not saying don't take responsibility because it's there. I'm saying that's a way to answer it, to say that it's not you in a sense. So don't feel that that's your true essence. Your true essence is love, yeah. But if that's in you, then okay, it could be from a past life, but still take, it's all about the moment now. That's where you take the action. That's where you take the responsibility. That's my point, I guess. But then
understand that, but realize too that we are all ego personalities here incarnated. And as an ego personality, sure, we have relationships to past lives. Our memories of past lives are all existing in our subconscious. So as long as those memories are there, the subconscious is really what trips us up. And this is how we start living, through that whole subconscious awareness. But the problem is that if we start using those past lives, the subconscious psychologies and belief structures and fears and everything else as an excuse for not changing today, as an excuse for not choosing today, then that's where we start.
Well, that's different. That's different. Yeah, absolutely. If you don't choose to want to change or take responsibility, even though it's from the past, but take responsibility that you need to change it now, that's very different. By the way, one of my chapters in my books is called "Simultaneous Multiple Past Lives Affecting Present Moment."
Interrupt you for half a second. It's like you talk about past lives. I had a deathly fear of sharks, and I think I've mentioned this so many times. I have a deathly fear of sharks at one point in time. Okay, and I was a kid growing up. The only shark the only shark I saw was on a book. I hadn't even seen Jaws. I wouldn't even go to see Jaws because I was afraid of sharks. And then I realized in doing past life regressions where it came from, what happened, and why it was. And sure, that helped me to understand. But I still had to choose to no longer be afraid of sharks. Okay, and so. Cool. It doesn't matter. The knowledge helps to relieve the angst, but it doesn't help to choose differently. You must still choose. Otherwise, you can't empower yourself.
I do agree with you, and I just think at least you know that if you can say to you, if you feel that it is something from a past life, then you know that's not the true you. You don't have to act that way neither. You don't have to follow it. You can go with love. You can say to yourself, what would love do in the moment now?
I agree. But I hear a lot of people who like to use the whole concept of karma and past lives as a way to justify themselves into why they're doing things today. And to me, that's just a cop-out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would completely agree with you. Yeah, completely agree. Um, yeah, okay. Well, fear, I suppose, it's one you talk about quite a bit, and it's quite a bit in your teachings as well. But it's an illusion, isn't it? It's false evidence appearing real.
Absolutely. Our minds, through our ego personalities, it's all the judgment we have. Every time you make a judgment, you create a fear. So the minute you have that fear, of course, you can create anything. You can start looking at a small piece of paper, a square piece of paper, and say to yourself, this is the hugest, biggest piece of paper that's going to envelop me. It's all about perception. And if you realize it's perception, you realize that fear, it's all an illusion. Fear is an illusion. Real to the mind, and oftentimes real to the ego as well, but it's not really real, and that's how we empower ourselves, by realizing that all of these fears are just illusions. When you start accepting that, then you start empowering yourself by looking into the fear, facing it head on. And as the Wonders are fond to say, fear is something that you're best at. Go head right for it, and don't run away from it, you know?
Yeah, and the opposite of that, if it's an opposite, anger. And anger is a big problem for some people. It's almost like putting up an invisible wall where you can't get near them, you can't speak to them, you know, because the anger and the physicalness that comes from that takes over. And you also talk about as well that anger limits existence, which I found fascinating.
Absolutely. Well, you think about it. If you're angry, if you're an angry person, all of that anger is based on judgment. Let's face it, that's at the end of the day. But that anger alone disempowers you, because you cannot function in any other way than in the way the anger allows you to function. So if you're angry at your life circumstances, if you're angry at people, if you're angry at a race, you're angry at a culture, you're angry at whatever, that limits your choices. And the minute you limit your choices, there's that third defining statement. I am limitless, but my choices reflect my limitlessness. So the minute you see that, you start realizing, okay, all this anger is making me contract smaller and smaller and smaller. And eventually what happens with people, and I've seen this, by the way, in life, people who are angry, you find that they tend to die younger, because all of that anger goes inside their body. It contracts them emotionally, it contracts them mentally, and it eventually contracts them physically. And the next thing you know, before you know it, there's a disease going on in their body, and they wonder why it is, and they're sick. And then they get angry at the world and God and everything else because they're sick. But at the end of the day, they don't realize that if they had only accepted their own empowerment, all of that anger would have dissipated, number one. Number two, they brought the sickness to themselves. And number three, that if they really want to change, there's still a chance to let go of the anger.
Yes, there is. And if someone's being angry towards us, it's such a normal reaction, isn't it, to be angry towards them? But I suppose that's not helping either, is it?
Let's
really?
face it, when you've got one finger pointing away, there's three pointing back at you. So at the end of the day, angry people don't realize that they're just pointing back at themselves.
That's so true. That's so true. Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so compassion. Now you talk about compassion is a key to becoming the greater self, in a sense, the sort of self-love as well. How important is compassion, do you think?
I think without it, you have no way of truly loving yourself, because compassion is basically the realization that even with judgment, you can still love yourself. And let's face it, the biggest compassion you want to have is the one for yourself. Compassion for yourself. You start with compassion for yourself, you have compassion for your brethren. That's as simple as that, okay? But if you have no compassion for yourself, how will you ever learn to love? You know, you can sit there and say, oh, I love you, you're my husband, you're my wife, I love you. But at the end of the day, you can't truly love them if you don't have compassion and love for yourself. If you're spending all of your time judging, I guarantee you that judgment is in your relationship. That judgment is affecting who your partner is. It's affecting the choice of partner you have. It's affecting everything in your life. So have some compassion for yourself and realize that you're not perfect. Let's face it, none of us are perfect. We all do things that are stupid. We all do things that hurt. We all do things, say things sometimes that really we don't mean to say. You know, the mouth runs off.
Yeah.
Have some compassion for yourself and realize that it's okay to not be perfect. And when you do that, then you start to love yourself. And at that point, you're starting to love the world.
You know, one of the things that struck me recently is well, I know I've pretty much feel that we're all one. I pretty much feel that connected with that we all came from the same place. We're all going back to it. We are all equal when we go back as well. And there's no higher or lower than the rest. We are just back to who we are. It's the veil that's here that we forget who we are. But that idea of being connected as one, it really, I think, makes me understand why I do care about the suffering of people locally, and definitely the suffering of people abroad, because their suffering is my suffering. Okay. Can you go down that road?
Yes. Be careful with that, okay? Because a lot of people care, they say they care about another person's suffering, okay? So what they want to do is they want to take that suffering away from the other person. You cannot take the suffering away from another person. You are disempowering them if you're trying to take their suffering away. People choose to suffer. It's their choice. They have a choice in life. You can either suffer or you cannot. There's really, really poor people in really dire circumstances that have a smile on their face every day and they love life. And then there's really, really poor people that have a dire circumstance that want the rest of the world to save them. And at the end of the day, it's like, have compassion for yourself. If you know, the wonders are wonderful this way. They say, they have an example. They say, see yourself as a cup, and that which fills the cup is love. If you're half full, the most you can ever do is half fill another cup. If you're full, the most you'll ever do is fill one other cup. They say, so fill yourself with love that it overflows, and then let the overflow fill all the other cups around you. So if you want compassion or caring for anybody else, first care for yourself. And if you've got too much, you're full, then let that flow to others. But don't try to save them from themselves. Save those or help those who want to be helped. Don't help those who insist on not being helped.
Now, this is where it gets tough, isn't it? In some respects, I understand what you're saying. And in some respects as well, when you say, or people could say that, you know, when you become a beacon of light and you shine out there, you know, that has a ripple effect on other people, and so on and so on. So yeah, I can understand what you're saying there. Marianne Williamson, trucking a big name in there as well. And just because she's Marianne Williamson doesn't make her right, of course. But she would say that, you know, how can you ignore the suffering of others? That's what she would say.
And so did Mother Teresa, and so did, you know, did a number of other individuals over the years, you know, Gandhi and everything else. At the end of the day, if a person chooses to harm themselves, you can tell them that they're harming themselves. You can give them that awareness. But if they choose not to use it, it is still their choice. To allow them to be truly empowered individuals, you have to allow a person to harm themselves. That's the key to this whole empowerment. We think that empowering ourselves, by empowering ourselves, we'll be able to force everybody around us to change. That's not real empowerment. That's just applying that whole concept that we've already had. Real empowerment is saying, if I have the freedom myself to choose to hurt or to love myself, then every individual around me has the same power. And if they have the same power, then allow my love to go to who wants it, and those who don't want it, they won't use it. It'll still be there, but when they're ready, they'll use it. When they're not, they won't use it. And that's, I'm sorry, that's how I live my life, okay? This is how I live my life. This is how I work with people. I work with people on a one-on-one basis as well. I counsel people on my own. And I counsel a lot of people on my own. I work with them as a life coach, that kind of stuff. Forget, there's no real word to it, but that's basically what it is. And what I do is I help people come to a realization that, okay, this is hurting you. Do you want to continue this way? And if the answer is yes, go for it. And if the answer is no, then I can give you the next step. And that's really ultimately how it works, isn't it?
I guess so, in some respects, I guess so. But, you know, the way I look at it as well, okay, so a soul's chosen to come down here. It's chosen to have an experience. It's probably chosen to have an experience of suffering, to be born in Syria, to be born in an ISIS threshold, to be born in Israel and on the wrong side, in a sense, to have these experiences and for that experience to rip around the soul group that's around it. But, you know, we don't always have the same, we don't always wake up at the same time. You know, they may not be as consciously awake to my truth as they are to theirs, in a sense. You know, they may never wake up in this life because that's what they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be asleep, in a sense, and not be aware of a greater reality because of whatever that's teaching them, restrictions, whatever it is, right? You know, can you ignore that? I don't know. I mean, I would say this as well. I would say this, you know, if isn't it a nice thing to do for some of us that can do it? Because some of us, the most important thing's being a mother. Fine, great. But for some of us, like myself, isn't it a better thing to try to leave the world in a better place than when it was, hence when we came in here?
Yes, but so what I'm saying is that, you know, it's okay to sit there and say, well, some people come into this world because really that they choose suffering. They you know, I personally don't believe that as a soul essence we necessarily choose specifically suffering. I believe that as a soul essence we choose the circumstances in which that's possible, and then it's up to us as egos to decide how to explore it and how to experience it. If our experience is such that suffering is all-consuming and it becomes something that we get angry and hurt about and disempowered ourselves as a result of it, then that's the experience that we experience. But if the circumstances of life are such that some would judge it as suffering and others would not, then it's up to us to decide which way to choose. That's where the empowerment comes in. I really honestly believe that in the world that we live in today, you empower the world, you teach the world, like what you're doing with your channeling and everything else. Yes, you present the opportunity to the world, but it's up to the people, individuals in the world to choose to listen to it. There's a lot of channelers out there. I believe in the material that the Wonders have put out, and I know how deep and broad it is, and I know how powerful it is. Having said that, not everybody wants it. Not everybody would listen to it. There was a client just the other day that said to me, I've had a number of sessions with the Wonders, and I seem to be asking the same question over and over, and I get the same answer, but I never actually listen. So, you know, what do you do with that? It's up to her. She's obviously started to realize it, and now maybe she'll listen the next time. Regardless, this is how you begin to empower yourself, one person at a time. And I really honestly believe that when it comes to self-love, when it comes to anything, you've got to give to yourself first. Fill your own cup, let it overflow, and then you've got all the overflow to give all the others. And, you know, the overflow is not the ego's overflow, it's the love of the self. Once you start loving yourself, your ego starts to diminish a little bit at a time, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And I would say doing this type of work that we do as well, you know, I don't think you can have much of an ego, because to go out there and portray this craziness, as some people will see it, you know, if the ego was there, it wouldn't want us to do it. It would stop us. I don't think the ego is there. So I think we're coming from this.
I disagree with you, Kevin. I think a lot of people have strong enough egos here to actually sit there and say, "Look at me, aren't I amazing for what I do?"
Well, then they're pretty. They're suffering from mental health issues, if that's the case.
Well, they're certainly not coming from their self-love. How's that?
Not self-love and mental health issues if they're doing that, because who would want to put themselves through the ridicule? I mean, it's not the norm. I mean, you know, I've been fighting this all the way. I'm still going to fight it tomorrow when I'm going to write the next chapter. It's a fight, hand behind the back. You will sit down to myself kind of thing to do this. So you know, but that's been my process, and I'm sure it's like, but I know what you're saying. There's good and bad of everything. There's cowboy builders. There's nice builders. There's good and bad in everything.
No, what I was going to say is that your experiences that you've had with other channelers as well, you've experienced basically a society in which channeling is really frowned upon. But there are societies on the planet, India, parts of Africa, the North American Indian, where channeling, and it's not called channeling, okay? It's called, you know, something else. but those are people that are really looked up to. So there are societies that really appreciate this kind of information stuff. Our North American society, our European society, are, yeah, we have difficulties with it, especially the Christian-based societies. But beyond that, there's a lot of societies that don't have difficulties with this.
Right, well, me and my ego are going to India tomorrow. We're packing our bags and we're going to live as kings. Yeah, that sounds really, really good. Come with us.
You could become a medicine man in Africa somewhere. You'd probably live better. So there you go.
We'll make a fortune. We'll rip people off and we'll just give them false information. It'll be great. There's the attitude. Live in bliss. Because what's it worth all this pain? But no, to do this properly, it takes talks like this, I think, to really, to help each other as well, And maybe your channel, you're helping my channel, and I'm helping your channel right now as they're discovering new truths. Who knows? Who knows? But I do think what you're saying is. It's got some resonance in it, but at the same time, I've got to say, I can only go down my truth, and I think I do feel other people suffering. But I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. You're not here to save the world. You're here to look after, to progress yourself. But I think for me, it's a natural progression to want to help others. So what I'm going to say with that is, for me, it would then be going into life purpose. Where is your joy? What would you love to do? Which would be a natural effect of you being that person who would help people anyway. And I know the answer to that. It's a spiritual news network. It's this and it's something else. It's this moving into that. And I think would you say that when we live in our joy, our passion, then it's a natural thing as a byproduct to be helping people from doing it, as you're doing?
Well, yeah, because at the end of the day, I guess please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying that I don't have compassion for people who are hurting. I'm not saying I don't have compassion for people who want to harm themselves, but I am saying I am wise enough as an individual to realize that if you insist on hurting yourself, the best that I can do is say to you, go for it and do it, and provide you with the tools you need to help yourself if that's what the case is. Having said that, my greatest joy in life is doing what I do. I love to channel. I mean, hey, I sleep for a living. What else can I get? I mean, that's the best job in the whole world. I remember being 5 years old and saying to my father, I wanted to get paid to go to sleep. And he laughed at me. Little did he know that later on in life, I would be sleeping for a living. So it is a great joy. And yes, when I channel the wonders, there's a joy that comes out of me. It's just like I feel like I'm home. I feel like I belong. All of that. Having said that, and I do realize what you're saying, it is a struggle. Maggie and we have invested every moment of our waking life for the last 20 years into spreading this awareness out to the world. Is it difficult? Absolutely. Is it a struggle? Absolutely. Is it a financial struggle? Yes, totally. I mean, let's face it, we've been on the edge of bankruptcy a few times because of all of this. So it's, it's part of living. But at the end of the day, we continue doing it because this is what we're here for. I'm here to bring this through. And that's really what I'm here for.
And I've got to put my hands up to you. I really have. You've not only allowed yourself to come onto this show, and for me to give you a bit of not a grilling, but to come up just to a check-in. Do you know what I mean? And for me as well, it's important that we allow these conversations to take place. It really is. Other people have these thoughts as well, so it's not just me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I have no problems with that. No,
absolutely. Thank you. And I was told by my channel. The very first time it came, first few times after it came in, is that my purpose here is to set up a network where it will bring all channels together, because together we are stronger than apart right now.
I agree. Thank you and congratulations. You now know your purpose.
Well, I don't know. Well,
mine's to sleep. That's it.
well, yeah, I don't know if it, well, yeah, I don't feel it. I have. I think what it's talking about is a network that will allow people like yourselves to come on and broadcast their truth to and resonate to the right people, and and for you to then get bigger clientele that you're helping those people, because the right people will come to you that are resonating towards you. But just to be bringing those messages under one roof, I mean, together we are stronger. Remember what it said, and it's true, that the world is in it always used to say to me that why man always wants to do it the most difficult way.
Yes, but at the end of the day, no matter which way it's done, what you do is you do allow, no matter the source, you allow everyone to connect to that source, and that's good, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where it comes from.
No.
If it helps people to empower themselves, at the end of the day, isn't that what it's all about? Because the more, I keep saying, the more empowered you are, the more you'll love yourself. The more you love yourself, the more you can change your environment. The more you change your environment, the more you change more people. The more people changes, the more the world changes. That's the way it works.
Absolutely. And a hats off to you for 20 years, both of you doing this, and the journey that no one really understands what you've took, nor do I. But because you've both come together and, you're supposed to be, it's made it so much more enjoyable for you both. Just life right now as well. I can see that. But thank you for what you do and what you serve as well. Because I bet it's testing sometimes. I bet it is. Okay, look. Yes, yeah, exactly. But then you don't know what the pinnacle of your work's going to be yet. You may have not even reached it. You may have thought you've reached it. You may only be at the beginning still. Have you ever thought of that?
No. Basically, I'm just here as a conduit. I'm here to basically allow the wonders to speak to humanity. When the wonders want to stop speaking to humanity, that's when it'll end. And the way I look at it, they've said that they're going to keep speaking until it's time for me to cast off feet of clay, basically die. And at that point, they'll let humanity know what's coming up, who will be channeling them in another word. They won't be called the wonders, they'll be called something else. So that's fine. There's a continuity there. There's a great way to explore. They've come through in the past, they'll come through in the future. I just happen to be the guy in the middle that, allows this to come through. And as far as I'm concerned, what I love more than anything else is that when the wonders come through, there is such a love coming through that that's what expresses itself to the world. And I hope that eventually those people, like the people listening to this show tonight, eventually they have an option to be able to listen to a recording that we're making available. They click on that link and go and see it and listen to it. Hopefully people will start to connect to the love that is the wonders. And at some point in time, I don't care if they come, don't come, listen, don't listen, but at least they'll be exposed to it. And I know from personal experience that the moment that people get exposed to that love energy, it'll change their lives. Whether or not they ever connect with it again, it doesn't matter. It's changed their lives.
Yeah. It's like reading your books. There's an energy that you take from there as well. Probably just even the words. I know what you're saying. And just to cover this a little bit as well, because we just need to say this. You do this full time, right? You do this full time. You're not doing anything else. So you've got to make a living from this. So there is a charge for the material, obviously, and people can't. Be expected that just because we do spiritual work that we should do it for free. So would you agree?
Yeah. I completely agree. It's like, we've over the years, when we first started, the interesting thing was when I first started, the very, very first time I got together, we used to do a 1-hour session for $50, and we couldn't get anybody to come. And now that we charge $600 an hour, they're coming all the time. Okay. It's funny how people value that which is most expensive, okay? But at the end of the day, we also, there's all kinds of people out there, they all say, you're spiritual, you're supposed to give it away. Yeah. They wouldn't give it away, but they want you to give it away. What we do, and this is where I can say, when you fill your cup to overflowing, our cup is a little bit overflowing right now. So what we've done is we've created an ability for people to connect with us and they'll connect with the Wonders, whether it be through private sessions on 15 minutes, half an hour, or an hour, whether it be through study groups, monthly study groups that are really reasonable from anywhere in the world, whether it be through workshops, the monthly workshops that are more expensive, and whether it be through an annual retreat where they can come in and spend a whole week and be treated and fed and brought back to health. Or whether it be through even all the free shows that we do. We do the podcasting, we do the free podcasts, the free radio shows. We've done all of that stuff. All that material is out there. So there's something for everyone, no matter where you are in your life. If you can connect to the internet, you can connect to the love of the Wonders.
Yeah, thank you for just mentioning that as well, what you've said there. And yeah, you see, oh God, aren't we strange, aren't we? Well, no, it's just the way we value things that, I don't see a problem with you, setting the goals high for some of the material that you've done, because this is your life's work in a sense. But there is still material that's accessible to people who may not be able to afford that as well.
There's been, like I said, there's a lot of free stuff out there. People who can't afford even a dime, you can connect with that. If you can go to the library, use the internet as the library, connect to the free stuff, it'll change your life. Then if you want, for $19.95, you can buy a recording. $20. Now, people say that's $20. That's really expensive. Yes, for a South African somewhere in the middle of Zimbabwe, $20 is a lot of money. But for a lot of people in North America, a lot of people in Europe, $20 is very little. No, for some people, they say $20 is a lot of money. But I can afford my pack of cigarettes for $20 or my case of beer for $40, but I can't afford $20 to help myself. Those are the people that go and say, well, that's your choice. You spend your money which way you want.
That's that's so true. Yeah. Now, you just mentioned, obviously, a couple of different countries there as well, and sort of moving this just towards what's going on in the world right now. What do the Wonders think of of the state of the play of the world right now, in the sense of ISIS and other such issues taking place right now? What's their view on it?
I don't know. I don't really have anything that the Wonders say on it, of course, but they do say that at present, the probabilities of a world war are increasing by the day. I look at the world and I see China and its aggression in the China Sea. I see ISIS. I see people like Donald Trump coming into the States and running for the Republican. And it's a divisive candidate. It's not that it's Donald Trump. It's that he's so divisive. And so, even racist in many ways. I look at the world, and I think to myself, you go back into history, and it's basically you follow what led to the Second World War, and you almost have the same pattern building again. And the players' names are different, but the pattern's almost the same. So you start to think to yourself, well, maybe we are heading into a Third World War.
We're not spreading fear here when we say that. It's funny. I have to say this as well. You've just brought something very interesting up there, actually, as well. That my channel said to me as well, and it said this at the beginning, that the way we're heading is not in a good direction, and that's why there's so much coming through right now to try to change the way. It's not that they care about the outcome or it's our free will planet in a sense, but it doesn't have to be so painful. So that's why they're coming through, and it's funny you say that's been said to me as well, that there's a potential that's not always so great. Potentially the way we're going right now, but it doesn't have to be that way.
Exactly. Well, it's in the History of Humanity series, the Wonders said that there were many cycles of 600,000 years that humanity went through, where it increased and then it destroyed itself, and it started up again and destroyed itself. And they said that we are in now. So if we follow the historical patterns, then we're at the stage where we're looking to destroy ourselves again. And I see it. I see the movement. It's not that it's guaranteed. It's not that we have to be afraid of it. But we have to, what they say about, good men must stand up and make the changes. And with women too. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is people who, of good conscience, must speak out and say, this is not what I want. You look at the divisiveness in the American politics these days, and everybody's going on and on about Donald Trump and the Republicans and the divisiveness and Ted Cruz and everything else, and you start to think to yourself, well, hang on a second, where's all the people that have to stand up? Now, yes, there's going to be an election, but where's all the Republicans, the conservative Republicans that are sitting there saying, it's time for us to rise above ourselves? I don't see that. And I think it's time for humanity to make that change.
Absolutely. Well, maybe Donald Trump is bringing up some of the ugly side of America. Maybe Donald Trump karmically is showing the ugly side, bringing that out, making it public right now, where it's never been made public before. But maybe actually, there is a woman that's going to come in the White House. Yes, she's not squeaky clean, but when you get into politics, what is, as some people say. So potentially, it's just a karmic thing that's happening. Who knows?
Yeah, but again, it's, whoever gets into the White House, at the end of the day, they're angry people in the population. And it's those angry people that are being heard, and the non-angry people are not. And they need to be heard.
Yes, and I completely agree with what you just said there about those people standing up, and that's what I'm going to do as well. I'm going to do something more than just this show, much more, and because that's what I feel that it needs to happen. If you like Gandhi did in American Mother Teresa, they actually did something, and that's what I feel like I'm going to do, whether it has any effect or not. But
But you only do, Kevin, what you can. Okay. At the end of the day. It's not just you. It's every good person has to stand up. Every person has to be the one.
And sometimes you just have to be that one just to shine the light a bit for other people to see as well. Definitely. Okay, there's so many directions we could have gone from that. Thank you just for sharing that as well. Wow, where can we go? Okay, I know we're well in overtime here right now as well. And that's another thing with love as well. We were talking about love. I know we're all over the place here a little bit. I just want to go back to love because I don't think there's something we didn't touch on as well. And you've said this before, that when people say they love someone, and this can be for themselves in a sense, but even just to another, sometimes we're saying it provided we get something back in return. It's what you can do for me. We've lost our understanding of what love is in a sense, isn't it?
Yes, I agree. People, the world we live in right now, people say, well, I love you. But really what they're saying is, I love you because, and there's always a because at the end of it, okay? And I think what we have to do, and this is where that spiritual awareness comes in, is you have to start realizing that if you love yourself to overflowing, then eventually when you say you love someone, you just love them, not because, but you just love them, period. And it's nice to be just loved. It's not that you have to be loved, but it's nice to express that you are loved and you're loving others. And in relationships, it's the common theme is, of course, I love you, you love me, let's get together, let's get married, let's have kids, let's have a family, let's have a life. Great, wonderful. But at no time in there do people really start looking at themselves and saying, do I love me enough to choose to be with you? Maggie and I, when we got together, I had done all that work on myself, and Maggie had done all her work on herself. So what we did is we choose to be with each other. Every morning I wake up and there she is right beside me, and I am so thankful that still that day she's choosing to be with me. It's not because she has to, but because she's choosing it out of her own free will. Every day she chooses to be with me, and that to me is love. Yeah. And every day I choose to be right there with her, and that to me is love. That's the love I'm talking about. The free choice that says, I'm not with you because you're with me, because you help me with the wonders, because you give me money, because you buy me toys, because you buy me jewelry. I don't do that, by the way. But I'm with you because I choose to be with you. That's it. No other reason.
And that's sometimes it can be rare, but most times it takes two awakened people to have gone through the crap to be able to say these things that you're both saying. And I know, Maggie, I know you would say exactly the same, and that's not forced upon you to say that. I know that's just how you would, you resonate with that. I can tell.
Yeah, for sure. I do exactly the same.
Yeah.
I look at Renee and I choose every moment. He chooses me every moment.
Yeah.
To be with him.
She's,
Yeah.
you know, she's a pretty good old girl, you know. I wouldn't want to let go of her.
It's a beautiful thing, guys. It's a beautiful thing to see that, and I hope that resonates with some people out there to think about that as well. You know, and because some people just jump into relationships, don't they? They just go from one to the other. And it's like, oh my God, you never even gave yourself time. What? You've just gone to another relationship? And then they wonder why they're cheating.
Duh.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, because they're getting into one looking where the next one's coming from. They're looking for something and they're not getting it because they're not giving it to themselves. You got to give it to yourself first. Then you can give it to somebody else. You know, I'm fond of saying I didn't mature until I was 47, which means that I got a long life ahead of me because, my
Exactly.
God, I tell you. But yeah, being with Maggie has helped me to realize the thing that I get from her is I've come to realize more of myself as a result of being with her. And, you know, I hope that she's come to realize, I think you've come to realize more of yourself.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's, it's wonderful to have that interdependent relationship where we both grow from each other. And like I said, it's a choice. Every morning it's like, hey, you're still here. Great. Hi, how are you? Good morning.
That's beautiful. I can't wait to have that one day. I really can't. And but I've had to go through my own process and my own stuff, and it's definitely, I needed to go through it, and I'm very grateful for it. And yes, you know, you can only appreciate things as well by going through stuff. I think there's no other way really.
I'll tell you something, Kevin. I'll give you something. Okay, this is a gift from me to you. I don't know what your circumstances are. I have no clue what your background is, but if you're really interested, there's 2 recordings. Blind Man, Is This Really Love? And the Relationship Series. Listen to those 2, and what you're looking for is in there.
Thank you very, 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 very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. I will do. I'm taking mental note of that as well. I'll listen back to this anyway to get that. Yeah, there was just a few more things. We're almost there. And I'm just forgetting my train of thought as well. We're almost there, we are. What would be really important to discuss right now? Well, there was some other bits and pieces. I think really... one thing we haven't covered, which we should just touch upon just quickly as well, is which a lot of people touch upon in these fields, is manifestation. What do the Wonders have to say about, you know, manifestation? Because that's what a lot of people, that's the quick fix. Well, not a quick fix. It depends how much work you've done on yourself, but that's what a lot of people are. It's one of the key things in their life.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people think that in order to manifest, and there's a lot of people out there that are teaching this, that you create a mantra, or you create a word or a phrase and reminds you who you are, and you repeat it over and over again. Eventually it'll come into your life, and you know, it's all the idea of it will come into your life. It will come to you. Yes, you just keep repeating it and you'll create it. You'll create, you know, the whole book on manifestation and everything else. At the end of the day, what the Wonders have said to me, and they said to everybody else, you choose. Now, you don't choose from your mind. You don't choose from your ego. You choose from yourself. Make a choice. If you choose health, be healthy. If you choose wealth, be wealthy. If you choose love, be loving. If you choose anything, do it. Don't quit telling yourself that I choose it and then expect that somehow or other the rest of the world will just kind of give it to you. You're sitting there on the top of a mountain navel-gazing and saying, well, I've chosen this. Why hasn't it come to me? It's like you're not choosing it. You're saying the words, but you're not doing the actions. It's like somebody who wants to be a success in a business. You want to have a successful business. Choose to be successful. That means you go out, you hustle, you do what you have to do, you get your sales, you get your advertising, your promotion, you work hard, you put in 18 hours a day, and you do what you have to do to make your business successful. The alternative is you sit there and say, I choose to have a successful business. I'll sit here and wait until my clients call me. Well, guess what? Good luck. Okay? And then you'll wonder why you didn't get it. So a lot of people that are into manifestation are into the belief structure that if they keep repeating it often enough, they'll manifest. Well, the Wonders say that's all you're doing is justifying yourself into making a choice. One day you'll choose, and when you choose, that's when that'll happen.
Okay, and there are recordings on your website, you know, for abundance and manifestation, I believe, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, many.
Many. Yeah.
I don't know. I've done so much material that you couldn't possibly ask me right now what they are. There's just too many.
Okay. I thought there was as well. Yeah, I thought there was material in that as well. And what do the wonders think about religion as well? Because I mean, that, you know, this is one of the bigger issues on this planet right now as well. What's the wonders' views on religion?
Well, the wonders have said it very succinctly, which was really an amazing statement. They said that spirituality is within religion, but religion is not within spirituality. Think about that. And that says it all. You know, it's up to you. Religion is a man-made concept to try to, you know, connect to a certain spiritual perspective, but really overall it's just men telling each other how to live. You know? And I say men because in the world we live in a patriarchal society anyways, and really it's mostly men that do all the religious shit anyways.
It is. No, that's right. Yeah. And I mean, I always think that if you're going to be born into, if you are born into religion, you know, maybe as a soul, maybe, I'm not saying this is defining truth, but just maybe you've decided to be born into a bit of restriction just to, experience that.
So as we started this whole interview with talking about how I was a Catholic at one point in time, I was also an altar boy. I was also at one point in time considering going into the priesthood, realized I liked girls too much, that was not going to work out for me, you know, but I mean, I explored all of that stuff. I've also explored Judaism, I've explored Sufism, I've explored, you know, a number of other different religions as well. And at the end of the day, I found that there's one thing in common, that when it comes to the spiritual perspective, it's tripe. It's like standard statements that they use, but the people that are supposed to be examples of spiritual perspectives are only people who actually, they're not examples, they're people who learn to spout it off really well, but they're not really the examples. You know, you take a person like Mother Teresa, who lived it in her own way, okay? So now they're elevating, the Catholic Church elevates her to the sainthood. Well, Mother Teresa would never want to be elevated to sainthood. She didn't do it to be a saint. She did it because that's how she lived. And we admired the way she lived, and we learned from her the way she lived. We learned about spirituality from that. But you didn't hear her spouting off a lot of stuff. Sure, she was a nun. Yes, she was Catholic, but she did things. The people admired her not for her Catholicism, they admired her for her spirituality. And I think really we need to have examples like that and stop elevating these people into sainthoods and, you know, different things where somehow or other we put them up on pedestals. Let's not put them up on pedestals. Let's realize that we have it inside of us, and let us be that.
Well put, absolutely. And as a sort of final message to the audience as well, what would be the most important message, do you think, from the wonders?
Empower yourself by choosing. Choose, and choose again. Quit choosing and saying that's it. Choose. One choice leads to another choice, which leads to another choice, which leads to another choice, and so on until infinity. Choose, and then choose again. You don't like that choice, you don't like the results, choose again. Choose again. Choose again. Don't sit there and complain about the results. Choose again.
Thank you for that. Well, we've been putting your books up on the screen, and the website, and some other bits and pieces of information have popped on as well. So I would just like to say, Réné and Réné Gaudette, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Kevin. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It has. Thank you, Kevin.
Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests on the show via themoreshow.co.uk, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.